Thanks, Kruz, for jumping on a call with some Harbour basketball coaches. I'm not sure how many Zoom talks you've been a part of. We've been doing one a week, just with different topics and just having an opportunity to use this downtime to just kind of get into topics that we think are interesting.
Yeah.
Matt was a two-time guest speaker, talking about defensive philosophy. That was really cool. That was really helpful. And last week we had Simon Mead from Huddle come in and talk a little bit about using film. And I just thought today would be really cool to just bring athlete perspective. I think we coach athletes, and a lot of the talks that I've seen have been around coaches talking to coaches, but not very many times are coaches talking to players and getting the player perspective. And, given the journey you've been on and being a local guy, who's really played in a lot of different places and a lot of different levels already, I think you're just the perfect guy. You're the perfect guy to talk to. So thanks for coming on.
All right. Yep. I'm ready to go.
Cool. The assumption is everybody knows who you are, but maybe for the people who watch this later who don't totally know who you are, I'll just give a little bit of a brief kind of overview. I'm sure if I've missed anything, you or Matt can kind of jump in. I think the core thing, you're a local guy, Rosmini College, two-time national champion. Harbour basketball, you played on a national championship team for Harbour as well. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes, it is correct. Under 17s, junior tall blacks, played at the Asia Cup and finished second. That was the team that qualified for World Cup. That qualified for the World Cup the next year. And obviously a really cool thing was you getting called up to the Tall Blacks, our senior national team, your last year here. So, man, you're really accomplished. I can say my claim to fame, coached you at the Melbourne. Yep, at Nuttawading. That was a nice team with Max and Thomas and Taki, and that was a really, really fun squad.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that was dope. So, hey, yeah, thanks for jumping on. I guess first question, now you're at the University of South Dakota, kind of a weird ending to your freshman year, right? With COVID-19.
Yeah.
How you holding up? What's it been like just being here while trying to maintain contact with your team? How's everything going so far right now?
Yeah, I think here I just finished off school, so online classes have been a bit different. Trying to stay fit and ready for next year, just because of the position I was in leaving. Like, I knew that I had to put in a lot more than I like would normally do.
Yeah.
And so, just doing that and just, staying in contact with my coaches, seeing what they feel like I need to do better. And also we had a team Zoom the other day, just about how we all thought the season went, and just a bit of a reflection on what we thought was, the highs and lows of what worked and what didn't, I guess. Yeah.
How was that? I mean, you guys left. At what point in the season were you when you left, and how were things going?
Yeah, so we already had our conference tournament, and so we got knocked out in the first round by North Dakota, and basically we were just looking for another post-tournament after that. And so, basically we were pretty much already finished, just looking for another tournament until it all hit. So it kind of really didn't affect us as much as other schools, but I mean, it's still pretty tough, I guess.
Yeah, because once the season ends, it doesn't mean that basketball stops. You take a little bit of a break, but you're going to jump into some off-season training. You're going to start working on your body, that kind of thing, right? That was kind of the plan?
Yeah, literally they were saying that we would get about we were only meant to get a week off until we were meant to go into that post-tournament. But if we weren't to go to that post-tournament, then we would have had only 2 weeks off until we'd start lifting and training again, I guess.
Yeah. And I suppose that, we'll kind of get into some of the lifestyle questions. I think certainly for the athletes and the players who aspire to kind of get to that level, it'll be neat to pick your brain a little bit about what the kind of typical, experience is like in terms of, what you're doing with your time and so forth. I suppose given that we have primarily coaches watching, I think we're really interested in maybe just starting with some basketball and really kind of diving a little bit into what basketball is like, in your team and at that level. Can you just talk a little bit, just talk us through a little bit of like, what is the basketball like at the NCAA Division I level, and how does your team kind of approach it? What's your team's style of play?
I think, well, we're a mid-major team, so the competition is like relatively good. I mean, we're just below, I guess, the big guys, the big schools and stuff like that. But I think the way that we kind of play, I thought we didn't really like sit down and talk about what we actually wanted to do, which was kind of weird compared to high school. But I felt like we were more like an offensive team starting off. Like we were a lot more offensive orientated, get the ball through hands and just execute plays, and then kind of defense came after, which was really weird compared to what I'm used to. And I think that's just because the coaches thought we would be pretty sound on defense, just looking at the preseason. But I mean, I don't really know what their thoughts were again.
Did you guys play fast? Would you say that your team plays fast, or what was the pace?
I wouldn't say we were a fast team. I think we were one of the slower teams in the league. More, I think we were like third or something in our conference for pace. Just more executing plays and I guess using the shot clock and things like that were more our style. But if we did have transition buckets, obviously we would execute that as well. So yeah.
One of the things that we've been talking quite a lot about and has been a conversation for us has been shot selection. And how do you guys approach shot selection? What kind of shots does your team value? Do you guys, what kind of coaching do you get on that side of things?
Yeah, so in terms of shot selection, I guess first of all, it's more about like the players. Like everybody usually has a role. They usually put you kind of in a box, whether you're going to be the driver or the 3-point specialist or whatever. And so we kind of had those kind of roles, I guess. But in terms of shot selection, we never liked taking twos. Our kind of offensive coordinator and assistant coach Brad Davidson wanted us to we called it zone 1 scoring, which is obviously anything in the paint, or straight threes. So those two were a kind of a focus for us, especially like statistics wise. We always look back at that in our previous games and stuff like that.
And that's one of the major points of emphasis, is like, where are you guys getting your shots, and who's taking, are your shots sort of in accordance with your roles?
Yeah, I feel like that's about right, because we have again, like I said, certain roles that people have more of a green light than others, I guess.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that that's too uncommon, to be honest, particularly as you move up into higher levels. I know we've been having the kind of positionless conversation a lot, kind of coming out of the NBA, and certainly, generally speaking, teams moving more towards kind of pace and space and motion style offense. But I think a lot of it is also a function of your personnel and what can you do and what are players able to do. And so it sounds like your team, in that respect, has a little bit of a little bit more structure to positions. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like in terms of shooting, again, on top of that, it's more about like personal preference as well. Like whether a player knows that they're not a great shooter or whatever, and they kind of more emphasize on driving or whatever. Like we have one JUCO player that just did not shoot any shots and just went straight to the hoop, but it was effective. So yeah.
What about the teams in your conference? What conference do you play in, and what's the style of play among the other teams in your conference?
Yeah, so I play in the Summit League. We have about 9 or 10. We're one of the smaller conferences, actually. But the teams all have, I feel like, different styles of play. I mean, like I said, they have really slow teams that like to sit down and execute, and then there's teams that'll press you the whole game. And then try to kind of, again, like try to get more transition buckets than really execute plays. But yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like, you mentioned that you guys run a lot of plays. Like, and is that, when you say play, is that sort of like we have been talking quite a bit about this difference between like a play and an entry, in the sense that an entry is sort of like a way of getting into kind of dominoes, that kind of conversation, where an entry is like a structured action that has lots of options, whereas a traditional set play is a quite specific action to get a specific player a shot.
Yeah.
Are you guys more on the entry side, or is it more of like a traditional set play?
I think set plays, I think, yeah, we don't have that many entry plays unless it's a transition, I guess.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. What about spacing? Like, is the spacing different, like compared to, what you've been kind of going through the last few years, with certainly with knowing how Matt likes to play and knowing kind of how things have been evolving? What's the spacing?
I think it adds on to that set plays kind of thing, that we kind of focus on being in the right spots. And I think what the coaches have already done previously is know where we're going to be, and they want us to be in that specific spot in order for the spacing to actually work.
Sure.
So yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, cool. So I'll just kind of stop there to say that if anybody has a question as we're going through this, you can use the question function, or you can just raise your hand and I'll just call on you, or just jump in as I go. I'm really interested, I think that most of us would be interested in learning what training is like, and kind of like what a typical session is like at the NCAA Division I level. I mean, simple thing would probably be even to start, like, how often do you guys train, and how long are your trainings?
Yep. So we have I don't know what the hours, you probably know what the hours is, but
there's a 20-hour cap. Yeah, a weekly cap of 20 hours on court that a coach can do.
Yeah. And so we usually have 2 days off, usually 1 day off in season, because obviously we're playing on certain days, and then we have a shoot around before game days. But usually we have, I think, maybe four trainings.
Okay.
And we always do strength and conditioning before that. But trainings are usually set up, like we always do a certain warm-up program, stretching, running, like just certain movements to get, I guess, our whole body ready to kind of compete.
How long does that usually last? Is that like 10 minutes, 20 minutes?
It's set on 10 minutes, so they kind of already knew.
Okay.
Yeah, what that was going to be like. And then we kind of go into drills again to kind of warm us up. And then we move into more specific drills for what we kind of didn't do so well, like the previous game. And so we'd usually compete in it, whether it was like on-ball defense. If we weren't doing executing on-ball defense, we'd do it into a competitive nature, I guess. And then I don't know some other ones, but if it's just defense, we'd literally play one-on-one, like King of the Courts and stuff like that.
Cool.
Which was always good. But yeah, we always finished with some sort of competing, which was good, I thought.
How much of I think that's a really interesting question. I know Gareth, reached out to me and sort of was interested in learning a little bit about like how much play happens in training. Like how much of your training is, going to be without defense, and how much is genuinely with defense and it's competitive and it's sort of live. It doesn't necessarily have to be 5-on-5, but like how much of it is live?
For me, I feel like a little bit more than half the practice is live.
Okay.
Maybe more actually, because I don't know, I feel like it gives more of an opportunity to make different decisions and like develop those decision-making skills, especially for the games.
Cool.
But yeah, I feel like.
You guys do small-sided games? Like, would you, like, in the sense of like 2-on-2s and 3-on-3s?
Yeah.
How do those tend to be structured? Is that like around an action is that out of an action?
Yeah, specific to one of our plays. Yeah, 100%. And then depending on like what the specific action is, if it is offense, it's in a play. If it's defense, we'd run it out of, again, an offense that we're probably like practicing for the next team that we're going to play. So yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's cool. That resonates for us. I mean, I think in the sense of wanting to continue to promote, you know, a lot of play and training, but sort of structured and semi-structured training,
Yeah.
where, you know, you're focusing on some situation or action that's increasingly coming up. So, you know, for if you think back to rep level, you know, for us it's going to be things like handoffs, and it's going to be things like throw and goes. And as
Yeah.
you get older, you're going to get into your pick and roll. Do you guys do some like small sided games out of pick and roll? Do you guys do a lot of that?
Yeah. So we do start off sometimes with a little bit of just defensive focused on ball movements and actions, but then we move that on to competitive on like one side will go and then the next side will go after that, and then if you get a stop, you get to be on offense.
Cool. Yeah, very cool. That's good. What about, I guess, the chain? Did you notice anything about like the focus changing as the season went along? You know, it's such a really long season if you really think about it, right? Because you guys started training. You guys probably started a formal team training in what, like October? Yeah, right. And you went all the way through to March. That's a long period of time. Did you feel like there were different emphases at like the beginning, middle, and end?
Yeah, I felt like at the start it was more moving towards a bigger goal. It was more like lots of different specific things, and then when we moved into the middle of the season, there was more about kind of executing and if we needed to branch out our different plays or different defensive schemes that were working or not working, and then the end was more about just really executing what we had and what was actually working for us, and just using those pretty much.
Yep. It sounds like stats and film were a big part, because a lot of your performance in the games is like feeding directly into what you're then doing in training. Like, we know that college basketball has a little bit more resource than what we would normally have, but can you talk a little bit about just film? Like, how does film used at that level? What do they film? How do they use it with you? What's that experience been like?
Yeah, so basically, normally we watch film before trainings, every training, if not all. And on the road, we usually watch it with our coaches to see who we're going to match up against or who's in our position. So yeah, I guess we really do use film a lot, and I think like I feel like I didn't really like realize how much we actually do use film, but we definitely do watch film a lot. Yeah.
Does it help you?
Yeah, I think so, especially not knowing what different people are going to do in other teams, being a freshman and not knowing anything about the leagues or what team does what. And so it's definitely helps me.
Yeah, cool. I'll stop there because I know I've been asking all the questions. Anybody want to jump in and ask Kruz a question? Maybe just about, again, we're kind of just talking about basketball. We're talking about coaching, you know, the training environment. Now's a chance to ask some questions. Ryan. Go.
So, what has been the main difference from like playing in New Zealand versus playing in the US, like in terms of live basketball? Not really like, oh yeah, just in terms of live basketball.
In terms of live basketball, I feel like it's a lot more competitive. Like everybody's out there to really fight for their position, and I feel like that's what sets the difference from high school or rep level, is that like people really want to take your spot. They really want the minutes, and it's to really set them up for other opportunities outside of college. And I feel like that's definitely what happens. I feel like the competitive nature of college basketball, especially Division One, is just out there to kind of kill your position or kill your teammate. Like it didn't really matter.
Sweet.
That's interesting. A lot more like intra team, so within team competition of like players competing against each other for minutes, for roles, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I have a question. How are you, mate?
I'm doing well.
No, just kind of off the back of that, almost like I think, you mentioned the competitiveness over there and just the mindset of the guys. I think you're touching on that. From like my experience, I would say you being in high school and coaching you there, you were one of the more competitive guys, like you really got after it and got into other guys and vocal and aggressive and all that type of thing.
Yeah.
But I suppose looking back now, I suppose in New Zealand, there's like not too many Division 1 basketball players.
Right.
So like, did you find that to be a huge shock? I guess I'm asking the question because like, I think in New Zealand, we're quite, like to me, you were like, oh wow, Kruz is really competitive.
Right.
I suppose that's just normal over there. Like, would you say that your level of competitiveness in practice, for example, leaving New Zealand was good enough to kind of transfer to the US, or would you say that you weren't like going at it as hard as you needed to be?
I think you're right about that, because I feel like I was going hard in practice for high school just because that was kind of the level I felt like I needed to be at, but not really knowing what you actually have to be at. In America, especially, I feel like it's a different kind of competitiveness too, because everybody's more like in your face kind of, instead of New Zealand. I feel like New Zealanders are more kind of a humble, kind of in your face, like they'll score on you, but then like really not say anything. Whereas Americans, when they want to score on you, they'll tell you all about it, and I feel like it's just a different type of competitiveness, I feel.
Just to follow up to that, would you say there's anything looking back now that you would recommend to coaches that are coaching like your level of athlete or players that want to get over there to try and create that type of environment to stimulate that type of competitiveness? Is there anything that you feel like we could focus on or do differently, even compared to what you experienced, to just better prepare you for that in any way?
Right. I really don't know. Like, I feel like it was more talking to the coaches. Like, I felt like when I used to talk to especially my mom, because she's obviously a coach, and she kind of always pushed me to kind of compare myself to somebody else, and like she'd always be like, oh, so and so is going to be better than you and stuff like that. And I hated that, and like and then talking to you and Sonny, it was more about like the exact same thing about kind of I want to be better than everyone else. That was always my mindset. I don't really know how specifically you would do that, but I felt like that's how my kind of thinking was towards competing, especially in trainings in high school. I wanted to be better than like the other guys.
I think this is a good kind of like train. I want to keep it going in the sense of like, I think Matt's alluding to a really good kind of issue, which is, we want to help prepare players for future opportunities. Lots of us, really identify with the idea of being a player development coach. And we want to learn from the people who've, quote unquote, gotten to where we're trying to get to. Now, of course, you could probably attest to the fact that once you got there, a whole new set of challenges come up, right? And just because you've got a scholarship and made it there doesn't mean that everything is, perfect, because I'm sure you've faced your share of obstacles. I know that after spending 5 years with Division I athletes, everyone's, got some different unique piece of adversity they're dealing with.
Yeah.
But I guess really what that kind of comes back to is like, all right, how do we better prepare you? And one of the things that I'm interested in is the issue of like habits. We've been talking a lot about basketball habits, and I think about things like the number of kids who just err to the strong hand and want to shoot go drive right and shoot a right hand layup, or kids who dribble with their head down, or who force really difficult shots instead of jump stopping and kicking out. Can you talk a little bit about, this is a two-sided question, what kind of habits do you think you have really helped you, that have prepared you? And then what habits have you had to kind of work on that actually you didn't realize, but now, are not necessarily helping you and need to be changed?
Wow. I feel like habits that were good for me were kind of knowing my goal. I feel and having that in the back of my mind, and really trying to use what was kind of put in front of me, and really use that opportunity, like especially like shooting. I feel like working on shooting for me was always a key thing, but I feel like I still need to do more. And so I feel like that's also like moving into the other side of it, is that like it's not enough. Like there's a habit that I feel like I got to, like I feel like I had the habit of doing it, but just not enough of it, you know. That's a
So you're talking about kind of the habit of training, or you like of like working on your shot and like shot being a focus? Because I guess part of what I was getting at was like in-game habits.
Oh,
so,
right.
For example, like being ready to shoot, like that to me would be kind of how I would connect that. Like you developed a habit, like if I'm open, I'm ready to shoot and I knock it down, like that would be something that would help you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I don't really know then, because like I haven't really thought about different habits like previously what was good for me, but I always knew that in our trainings in college, we always had an emphasis on having good habits, and being consistent was more of the biggest thing. Like if you're going to stay down in defense, stay there for the whole time.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole training. If you're going to play 94 feet up the court, play at 94 feet the whole training, If you're going to talk the whole time, and like every training as well.
That's good. And that's actually probably a really good one to think about. We just had a chat with Matt about defensive philosophy. He just talked to us a lot about the importance of like consistency, of intensity, ball pressure. That would make sense that you would be ready on that perspective. I guess maybe the flip side of that would be, and this is maybe another way to ask the question, like what's been the biggest adjustment basketball wise for you? What's been like what have you had to really work at since you've got there?
Right. I feel like defense, I thought I was a good defensive player until I went over there, and everybody knows how to break you down, which is, I feel like, was a big difference. I feel like, again, the different type of competitiveness, the way that people get into your face when they're going to make shots and stuff like that, and do something crazy, shooting at a high level, and you think you're good over here, like shooting, but it's people are specialists, and that's why they get into Div 1. And then especially like bringing the ball up, I feel it was a big adjustment, because I feel like in high school people don't really play 94 feet, and I kind of tried to put that into my game late in high school, which I thought I should have done earlier, is really play up to 94 feet, and the defensive pressure is a lot different over there, to add on to that. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. And that would resonate, certainly, I think, with my experience, having watched a lot of basketball at that level of they guard you once the ball's inbounded, and you've got to be able to not be bothered by that, right? But you also have to be able to do it defensively too. Yeah. 100%. Well, I'm just curious about the shooting. Like, what is considered a good shooter at your level?
I feel like it's measured on what's it called? A good shooter is measured on their percentage in games, as well as kind of scoring, different drills that you score off. I feel over there, that's kind of how they measure that. I feel.
Can you give us an example? Like, I'll be interested in knowing, like, if your coaches use a number, like, is there a specific number that they use to determine kind of like your effectiveness as a shooter? Like, do they set any benchmarks?
No, we don't set any benchmarks, just because I feel like everybody's at a different level. And like I said, we have like literally certain people who will not shoot. But I think it's more personal preference. Okay. Like, if you think you can shoot, you'll put them up.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Others, questions? Andrew, you got a question in there? Okay. Can you talk, Kruz, a little bit about the strength and conditioning side? What's that been like? How's that adjustment been? What kind of things are they working on your body? And then similar to Matt's question, like, what do you think about where we're at from a strength and conditioning? How do you compare it to what strength and conditioning is happening here in New Zealand?
Right. Well, first of all, I feel like I will start with the second one, is that high school, I feel like conditioning is really emphasized, especially in the preseason. I feel like with Matt's team, we definitely did a lot of conditioning, but not strength work. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like that's a difference. They really want you to bulk up and to be in your peak kind of condition, so that you can kind of bang bodies with other players, because a lot of the athletes over there are really like naturally developed, I feel. And some people don't even like lift weights. It's kind of like Mika Vakona, like lifting one weight and getting, 5 times bigger. But yeah, I feel like over here we do a lot of strength and conditioning. Less conditioning in season, obviously, because we're playing and training all the time. But more strength work in season as well. But we do a lot pre-season for strength and conditioning. It's all about getting our bodies right.
Has that adjustment been okay for you? Like, are you enjoying the time that you're putting into the weight room?
Yeah, I feel like I just want to see my body get bigger. I feel just because of I know now that what other point guards look like and what I kind of want to be aiming towards.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
that's really good. What about and again, just trying to understand the experience a little bit. What's your life like academically? Have you figured out what you want to study? And if not, that's okay, because you don't have to. But what's academics like? What's the off-court life like for you as a student athlete?
Yep. So we usually have classes in the morning before trainings, or we have weights before the classes. The classes are usually from 8 to around 2 or whatever, and then we have training. But I think academics is pretty not bad the first year, I think. For me it wasn't, and I feel like I feel like it was just I don't really know how to put it. It was a lot. I feel like it was easier because you have so much more freedom to do what you want, I guess. I don't know.
Because you're only taking 2 or 3 classes in a day. You've got a lot more time outside of class. You can set your own schedule. So I imagine you've enjoyed that.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, I'm actually studying sports psychology.
Okay.
So I'm kind of interested in being kind of sports psychologist and moving towards working with teams and things like that. But
That's exciting. Matt's got another question. Go ahead, Matt.
Sorry, I keep interrupting. Just kind of going back to your, you mentioned that you struggled with defensive, like you thought that you were a good defensive player. Maybe, you didn't a similar feeling in terms of your shooting, or like maybe you didn't realize how good you needed to be, or whatever your thoughts were there. Like, I often think about, I guess, scholarship level players, not whether they're Division 1 or not. like in their senior and even kind of junior year of high school, you get a lot of opportunity. Like you're on the court a lot, you're taking a lot of the shots, you're a core part of your team.
Yeah.
And then I suppose if you transition that to your freshman year of college, unless you're like a high level recruit,
Yeah.
you're kind of at the bottom end of the spectrum in terms of you really have to prove yourself, and maybe you're only getting a minimal amount of opportunity, and you've got to show your worth in a short space of time. That's it's a very different place to be, right?
Yeah.
And so I suppose, do you feel like you went in with that understanding and you approached that in the right way? I guess that's my first question.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. I felt like I didn't really know what to expect at first, but I felt like I was at the right level. And if by the interest in different colleges, I kind of felt like where I would be, because of what the coaches, like, if they were going to be interested in me, they thought I could play in that level. But in terms of like being ready for and being ready defensively and things like that, I felt like in my junior and senior year, I didn't really take the opportunities, especially against like the little Filipinos, man. They're really quick. They're really quick, and I feel like that's an awesome way of kind of getting ready, because like, even though they're not physically as big or whatever, but they're way faster, and that's the kind of level I feel like I should have kind of used more. Kind of them telling them to, you know, play me full court or whatever, just to get ready to be pressured like that.
Yeah,
that's really good.
I think, like, to me, it's kind of like an efficiency thing. Like, in high school, you can kind of get away with being inefficient because you're just like the best player or one of the best players. You know, you can take 20 shots, and if you score 20, that's all good. Whereas you're now moving into a role where you're just getting a few minutes. I suppose in terms of, if you can think back to the way that you were coached, it's probably not ideal that I'm asking you this question, but even through reps or with Rosman, to be honest, I can take it. Like, do you feel like you were coached in a way where you had to do things the right way, that you had to be efficient? You were kind of, people were, I know that you're like, that's interesting to hear about your mum, because it sounds like you were being held accountable to the fact that, like, ultimately at some point your game is going to have to transfer.
Yeah.
And you can't just go out and do whatever you want. Like, do you wish maybe coaches held you more accountable to that, so that that transition would have been easier? Or how do you think about that?
I think a little bit more. I think knowing that exactly what you said, that we were, well, if you were in my position, like, or in the top position in your team or whatever, knowing that you're gonna, you know, score 20 or whatever easily, and you don't really have to do all the other stuff. I think coaches, like you said, coaches kind of need to keep you accountable, but I feel like it's not like that. I feel like it's more, for me, it's more about a player's attitude towards that. I feel like the coaches can like help with that kind of thing, but I feel like it's more the players to take accountability on where they want to be and what they have to do to get, I guess.
Yeah,
So,
I can kind of see that. Go ahead, Matt.
Last question before I mute myself. I don't know, because I just feel like, from my own experience as well as a player, not that I was a Division I basketball player, but I was, you know, like on rep teams, and I suppose one of the more talented players, or, you know, starting five, whatever. Like, I think one of the things that I struggled with or experienced was, like, coaches wouldn't hold you to a high account, you know, like they would kind of let you, because you're one of the better players, you could kind of get away with things.
Yeah.
Right. And that's interesting to hear, like, that you said about you feel like it's more players, it's a player's attitude. Do you think that if that's the case, do you think that like you could have? How important do you think it is for a coach to really persist on getting in your mind and talking to you about, hey, you're going here next year. This needs to be, you need to hold yourself accountable. You need to work hard. You need to do this, that, and the other, because this is what's coming. Like, I don't know. I'm just trying to get the coach's role.
Right. Yeah.
In that whole process.
What of it is coach and what of it is player, I guess, because I can kind of see that. I can see Kruz saying, hey, player has to take personal responsibility for guarding, guard someone better than you. Play hard all the time. Like that should be normal default for you, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is the role of the coach, I guess?
I'm not very good at asking questions, so thanks.
Yeah, I think definitely exactly what you said. Like the persistence of the coaches. I feel it was more like I said. It was like my mum. My mum always was persistent with keeping me like accountable on being better than somebody, and and for like coaches, I feel like you can kind of be that person who like always, like, I guess, takes your side, or even in front of everyone, just be like, you want to go here, like, and you're not doing that, and you can keep on nagging them. I feel like it's just the way the player takes it. Like they should be able to take it like on the chin, because that's where they want to go.
Yeah. I think it'd be really interesting, because I think I have two questions to follow up on that. One is, if you could go back and do your kind of school years over again,
right?
And really we're mostly talking about kind of high school years. Would you do anything differently in terms of the way you approached your basketball, and your preparation for going to the U.S.? And we'll start with that question, and I'll ask a follow-up question. What would you do differently if you could start it over again?
Well, like I said, I would take every opportunity. Like I said, with like the different defensive intensity, what it's going to be like over there, kind of emulate that in our trainings. Ask somebody to play me 94 feet or whatever, just to keep getting better. I think also training, I feel like I should have trained a lot more on specifics, and just get a lot more reps up, I feel.
Like shot reps?
Yeah,
or
like shot reps, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I feel like there's this, everyone knows there's like a 6 to 9 month gap until from like finishing school to actually going over there. And so I feel like using that, I should have used that for like, I should have had a 6 to 9 month kind of calendar on what I was going to do and what I was going to do to get better. So if I would do that again, I'd definitely put something together so that I would, be ready straight away, and like have that confidence, I guess, to really show what I have in that little window that you do get in college. Yeah.
That's really good. And I think the related question is around like, when did you know that you were good enough to play at the next level? Like, when was the point in time where you kind of, did you always know, like when you were 13, or 14? Because I remember seeing you at 13, and I remember you trying to dunk all the time and throw lobs to yourself. And, like, I remember all that.
Yeah.
And it's really hard for us as coaches when we're watching kids who are 13, 14, 15 years old to know who's going to end up where.
Yeah.
But when do you feel like your kind of mentality and understanding about your future took a leap, and you were like, you know what? Like, I can play on national teams. I can play in America Division I. Like, when did you know?
Well, I don't know. I think it was a slow process, because I felt like I was fortunate enough to be in the younger age groups for New Zealand teams and things like that. And I always knew I was playing against people the same age as me that were the best in New Zealand at the time. And then slowly going up the ranks like that in the New Zealand team. So I knew that if I was able to, be, you know, one of the top guys in the New Zealand teams, in the age group teams, that I felt like I knew that I was going to be able to, you know, go over there, especially if they were aspiring to be that as well. Like, I wanted to hop on their back and then kind of, you know, develop so that I could be better than them, I guess.
Because I feel like you took a leap. There was a period where you took a leap kind of between, and I think, to be honest with you, you're almost a different player from when because I left for a period. I was here in 2016 and 2017, and I left for a year. When I came back, and I saw you in Vegas. I was like, "Ooh, this guy has gotten better. This guy's gotten a lot better." And that was the summer of 2018. So July of 2018. I was like, "Ooh, yeah, like he's doing things." Was that a physical thing, maybe? Like, did your body kind of reach a point? Because you dealt with a lot of injuries. You dealt with like an ankle injury for a long time.
Yeah, I still do have ankle problems, but I feel like my body did kind of develop into what I wanted to be, and I felt like preseason trainings and well, pretty much in 2018 was the year that I had a lot of opportunities to go overseas and pretty much play all year round. And so I felt like that kind of gave me the opportunity to really like excel, I guess, and better my game, I feel. And it just gave me confidence, I feel. Yeah.
Can I just add a comment more than a question? I think thinking about that, Vince, from my perspective, the big jump, and he improved a lot in 2018, but I think from when he started to, between his year 12 and year 13 year, Kruz, you trained with the Breakers.
Oh, yeah.
And I think coming back from that, and I don't know, Kruz, if that was your first time really training with men in a professional environment or Tall Blacks, but that to me, when you came back, even in January after that experience, you were a different player.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, I didn't even think about that, but in that summer where I was working out with the Breakers, I kind of learnt a lot of different lessons about like being a professional, I guess, and kind of holding myself accountable to what I want to do, you know, and like the way that Mecca used to bring us all in and just be like, you know, this is, you know, I don't want to say the word, but like, like this isn't good. We need to do, you know, better, hold ourselves to a higher standard and things like that. Kind of just, I feel like engraved into me what I wanted to do in that last year. Yeah.
That's really good. I do think it's important that we think a little bit about, you know, kids have a lot of families, not just current players, but players and their parents are always trying to decide where to invest their time. And what's the best place for me to invest my time? What's the best thing to do? You know, some people don't want to miss anything, so they sign up for everything, and their bodies kind of take a bit of a that takes its toll on your body. Obviously, you want to get better, but you also want to have fun. So I'm not sure I'm going to encourage. You know, I'm not sure like when is it right to kind of start playing up against older players? You know, like that's an interesting question. You know, like when is it the right time to play older players? What advice, I guess, is kind of, as we start to kind of wrap up here, like what advice would you have for players and their parents about kind of like approaching the journey, I guess, of wanting to just become the best player you can and potentially have opportunities afterwards? Like what advice would you have to a mom, dad, and their, you know, young kid who was you at 12, 13, 14 years old and older?
Right. I feel like for my advice, I feel like I'd probably say if you want to commit, you have to commit 100%. And I feel like if you're going to be if you want to be a basketball player, if that's what you're going to invest your whole time in, if you've stopped playing rugby or whatever and you really want to play that, then like the parents should really encourage you to go to like as many trainings and things as you can. For me, I felt like it was exactly that. Like I wanted to go to all the trainings. I wanted to play different people because just to see what other people were like, you know.
But you played multiple sports, right? Like, did you always only play basketball?
No, I actually I played soccer first, and then I kind of like made my way into goalie and then out. So
I'm not very good at this sport. I think I'm just gonna find it.
Yeah. And so I basically just said, you know, I want to 100% commit to this. Like, I'm pretty good at this. I'm playing above my years, especially when I was younger, and yeah, just pursue it 100%. Like, if I was gonna, you know, commit to it, I wanted to commit, you know, more. And that kind of was more of a mental thing down the road. Like, when I was year 11, I felt like I was in a position where I had, you know, 3 more years to get to where I wanted to be. And I kind of set that goal in year 11 on that I wanted to be a college athlete and then someday become a professional basketball player. But yeah.
That's good. Yeah, really, really good. Other questions? Anybody else have any other questions?
Hey guys, is it up?
Yeah, go ahead, Jordan.
Hey, sorry I'm late. I had a last minute I had to put out for work. So it's good to see you, Kruz, man. Looks like you're doing well. First of all, I haven't caught up with you since you got suspended, so like, congrats, man, living the dream. But obviously, I've kind of coached like 14, 15-year-olds. So what were kind of some of the habits you wish a coach kind of taught you that you like saying maybe at younger you wanted like maybe to pick up someone for 94 feet or someone else to kind of pick you up 94 feet. Kind of what are some little things that you wish you kind of was ingrained into you at that age group?
I think a thing that was really good for me was pretty much every coach that I went to always emphasized how much one-on-one coaching or by yourself coaching really develops yourself, especially in a team situation. Like if you're going back into a team, and I feel like that, like emphasizing how much of one-on-one or by yourself training can really, you know, impact your game to get you to that next level is like massive. I feel, especially for me, every coach told me to always do extra hours and stuff like that. And now, like thinking back on it, I always feel like I always needed to do more, you know, more shooting by myself, and actually realize how much of an importance it was to really have that those type of trainings instead of
training outside of training outside of the team trainings.
Yeah. And like really like reiterating how important it is to really go by yourself and try out new moves and put in the reps, I guess, just to build confidence.
Yeah. And just the last one, so you kind of touched on competitiveness, kind of that was a bit of a kind of new thing to adjust. Kind of a couple of things. How did your coach handle that competitiveness? Like, does he kind of foster it? Do you reckon that kind of level of competitiveness within the team is good, or just kind of?
I think it's healthy. I mean, I feel like our coaches was really what's it called, loose on our competitive nature. Like there would be a few fights in our trainings, but he'd just let it go. But afterwards, everyone would know like straight away, like it's completely fine because, you know, we're all on the same team at the end of the day.
Would he address it if it was like fight, if it kind of boiled over to like a fist fight or
literally we had a fist fight this one time, and nobody did anything besides the players.
Mm-hmm.
But because afterwards, literally they made up.
Okay.
Like I feel like, yeah, it's just about that. And then actually it's funny enough, like looking at the MJ documentary about how he kind of did that kind of thing, and like it feels as if, you know, that's kind of how it is, you know. Somebody's gonna be that person who's competing all the time, and like no matter how crazy it is, you know, I feel like it's a good thing at the end of the day.
I think,
Yeah, I think there's some really interesting stuff in there, because when I hear you talk, what I think a lot about the coaches who talk a lot about kind of like taking pride in stopping your man. Like I need as an individual to take pride in my ability to shut down the person I'm guarding, and then vice versa, to not let anybody be able to shut me down.
Yeah.
And I need to be able to break my man down. I need to be able to get by my guy. And that is something that as an individual player, you have a responsibility for taking ownership of yourself. And that only comes through individual extensive like practice, right?
Yeah.
Like, I have to practice on my game if I want to be good at these things.
Yeah.
And in training, I need to be ready to compete against the man I'm guarding and against the person who's guarding me. And I need to be embraced coaches who want to foster that kind of competition. And there's a healthy level of competition that's good for us.
Yeah.
Even if it means a little bit of kind of guys getting out of each other, like as long as they understand how to keep it within the boundaries of the court and not let it spill over into, you know, non-basketball things, right?
Yeah.
Like, is that fair?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like it's a different environment in college, because everybody's more aware of the fact that, you know, we can't be friends on the court, but we can be friends off the court. You know, we're a team at the end of the day. Like, that's just the college lifestyle, I feel.
Yeah, really good. Really, really, really good. I wish we could stay here and talk to you all day. It's been an hour. I really want to be respectful of your time, and you probably got dinner and you know, some other stuff to do. Does anybody have any final questions before we go? Because I would like to let Kruz get on with his evening. Doesn't look like it. Cool.
Sweet.
So we're good?
Yep.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Kruz. This has been awesome. I think, you know, there are probably a million other questions I'd love to ask you about, but maybe we can bring you back another time and ask those. But hey, thank you so much for taking the time here. This is going to be a huge resource for us. I think just this talk to be able to share with people who are interested in learning more about, you know, like the college experience. And yeah, so thank you.
Yeah, sweet. That's all good.
Cool.
Great.
All right, guys. Well, hey, thank you for joining in, and have a good night. Shout us some feedback if you have any thoughts about this session or any other suggestions on questions that we could ask or people we could bring on. Cool. All right, everyone. Have a good night. Cool.
Guys.
Thank you.